So Jay, you're out, you're free, you're rehabilitated. What's next? What's happening? What you gonna do?
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is my co-host,
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Central Time, 11 p.m. Eastern. We would like to thank Bob Zerl for his technical contributions. Our sponsor is Ragged Records in downtown Rock Island, soon to be coming back to downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper endings. Our guest this week is Kurt Frohlich, lead singer of LA Guns.
Yeah, there's a new version of LA Guns with Steve Riley, Kelly Nichols, who are two original members, Scott Griffin, and Kurt Frohlich. They got a new album, Renegades, coming out Friday, November 13th on Golden Robot Records. In the meantime, you can check out their new singles on their website, Crawl, Well-Oiled Machine, and Renegades.
It's been fantastic. We got a chance to listen to it through their PR. It's been great. I think there's really nothing else to say, but let's just get to this interview.
All right.
Good night. I want to introduce you to my co-host, Jeff Untied.
How's it going, Kurt?
Hey, Jeff. Did you say Jeff?
Yes.
How's it going?
Good.
Well, I'm sorry that I missed your text message. I was in a deep conversation with my oldest. He's having dealings with life right now as a 23-year-old. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get it. I was just talking to my 9-year-old now. She's like, we put her to bed right about now. So I'm like, okay, good night. I'll come and say good night to you later.
Well, the 23-year-olds, I think I'd rather take the 9-year-old's life back again. But regardless. But anyway, hey, I want to thank you so much for your willingness to participate and your communication through all this. This has been fantastic. So we're really excited to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, Jeff and I both listened to your interview with Mitch LaFon, and we have to get this guy on our podcast. Yeah. This is good stuff here. So we had to contact you immediately and say, hey, we got to get you on this podcast. So this is fantastic. So LA Guns out there, some might know, some might not know that you have some exciting news to share about some new material. Can you kind of divulge some information for us?
Yeah, we so far we recorded the record in November of last year. Luckily, we all could get in the same room before COVID hit. So we finished the whole record and got it mixed and everything. And then we were going to support it doing shows, but that didn't happen because before spring, obviously there's no live shows. So, and then since then, long story short, we've released 3 singles. The first one was Crawl. Second single, it was received really well.
Yeah, it's a great tune.
We were really happy with it. And the second single was Well-Oiled Machine. And then the third was Renegades, the title track from the album. And yeah, it's all been really good feedback. And we're glad that people are keeping an open mind since obviously there's 2 lineups. So, and then the album is set to release for Friday, November the 13th.
Fantastic. So I guess this would lead into the next question I have. the opposed of releasing an album all at once, or we see a lot of artists releasing singles at a time. The music industry is so different now than where it was 10 years ago. I guess, how do you see things changing for yourself, as far as I know, because COVID has changed everything.
Yes.
But are you a fan of releasing one song at a time, or do you still have in favor of doing hey, let's release, if we can, let's release the entire album all at once?
I think initially, Golden Robot, which is our record label out of Australia, I think initially we weren't going to release as many singles. Maybe they were going to release, I'm not sure if it was just one single and then the album. But because of COVID and that we weren't going to be able to tour, we were kind of trying to buy time, I think, so we could, because we wanted to get out and play. But, as time went on, we realized that wasn't going to be possible. So we really wanted to hold off as long as we can, but now we don't want to hold off anymore. So we really want to get the record out and get, because it's been finished for so long. So we really want people to hear the entire album, because I think it's a great album front to back. So.
Yeah, the first 3 tunes are pretty killer. About the writing process, how does that work within the band? Do you guys bring in your own tunes, or did they have stuff already written?
No, what was really cool about it is everything's a 4-way. We split everything 4 ways as far as writing and as far as everything. So we submitted songs via Dropbox or whatever, via the internet, and we all submitted a bunch of songs, and then we went through and we just picked the best songs. It didn't matter whose songs they were. It didn't matter. We just picked what we thought were the best songs that had the, we really wanted to keep that LA Guns sound. And so we picked stuff that we thought really suited the vibe and everything that we were going for. And then we all collaborated on each one. So, and even when we were in the studio, if we needed a verse, if one of Kelly's songs needed a verse or something, I would write a verse, and then we might fine tune it together or whatever. So it was cool. We all collaborated on everything.
Nice.
As you say, this was a joint project for each band member. When you're talking about bringing each member bringing a battery of songs to the table for this album, how does it work with the songs that you don't use? Is it something that you look forward to saying, okay, these X amount of songs are going to go towards the next album, or what do you do with leftover songs? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you said. It was down to the last day when we were like, all right, which song are we going to record? We got these, 2 or 3 songs. We want one of them. What are we going to do? And we made the decision. We were all like, okay, cool. Because you know what? Those other 2 songs, we'll put them on the next record. That's kind of that's exactly what we were thinking.
It always fascinates me with bands. They have their, archived of unreleased material that you've recorded the song as a demo or what have you, but it never just ever sees the light of day until, maybe 20 years later when they're like a vault of tunes come out. I guess what, as far as an artist goes, maybe this is not necessarily an LA Guns question, but more of just an artist question. How do you just know when this song is never going to see the light of day? We're never going to use it. I guess what deems that you to say, like, we're just going to kind of abandon this one?
I don't know. I think a lot of the time stuff gets, when you got a big budget and you got a lot of time, which those days are kind of gone, especially, in our situation, it was that we had a budget and we had a very tight time frame, 10 days. That was pre-production. That was recording the entire album, everything. So we didn't even get a chance to record extra songs and then after go, okay, which songs are we didn't have time to do that. But I'm sure, bands with bigger budgets, they might record 20 songs and narrow it down to 10 or 12, but and then they're in the can, they're already recorded. But so we didn't have that luxury, but I'm sure that's how it happens with
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, besides vocals, you're also playing rhythm guitar, is that correct?
Yes, I played rhythm and guitar. I played some lead lines. I played a lead solo on one of the songs I wrote too. So, because I'm a lead guitar player too. So
fantastic.
That's awesome.
Go ahead. Is that who you are?
Scotty's really cool, man. I was like, hey, man, this song, I have a solo for it. Do you mind if he's like, absolutely. You play the solo on this song. I'm like, cool, thanks.
Excellent.
Awesome.
I was reading in the notes that the album was recorded at the Stag Street Studios. I guess the question I have is, we discussed technology with all of our guests, and so as far as what technology gives us now with artists, that you definitely don't have to go into a traditional studio to create an album. Like you just said, your Dropbox and what have you. What is your preference? Do you like the use of today's technology that you can just kind of Dropbox it to the other band members, or does the band still go into the studio and hash it out the old-fashioned way? How does it work for this version of LA Guns?
Well, I think it's much better to be the way we did it. The only way we used Dropbox is we sent all the ideas of the songs, of the demos, and everyone learned the songs. And then we showed up and we rehearsed them for like 3 days. And then we went in the studio together, like in the same room. So I have eye contact with each other, and we recorded those songs together as a band. And I think you can hear that in the songs, because I think, I'd much rather, and I know I probably speak for all the guys in the band, that we'd much rather do it that way, the traditional way of playing as a band, than to playing to a drum track, or, the drummer puts his track down and emails it to everybody. And yeah, obviously, I've done some projects like that in the last 6-7 months at home here. And it's turned out good, but it just doesn't, there's a vibe when the four guys are in the same room together and you feed off each other's energy.
Oh yeah.
We've all seen the documentary Sound City, and how recording studios are kind of dying. As far as as a retro type thing, do you ever feel that maybe the setting of the studio will be of the utmost importance again, even though technology is advancing so much at home for artists like yourself? Or do you just feel like that the old-fashioned studio way of life is going to be kind of like a dinosaur?
I think financially, obviously, it's hard for a band to shell out tens of thousands of dollars to get into a studio and record an album. So as far as independent bands like that, you have no other choice but to do it at your home or whatever. Digital technology is at everyone's fingertips now. But I think to get in a studio together is always preferred by, any rock and roll artist, really. I could think of that. That's the creation of art has to be like, it's something that people put together as a unit. That's kind of how I see it.
Well, let me interject one thing here, Jeff. Sure. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but we had John Bush on from Armored Saint Anthrax a couple weeks ago, and he was explaining to us that for Armored Saint, for the members of the band, where they're at in their lives right now, he looked upon as that the way of technology of doing it at home for them is the most productive way, because he kind of looks back on when he was younger, and the studio kind of was almost like it's not the utmost focused anymore. Do you ever find yourself saying maybe staying at home, we're more productive doing that instead of getting together, and then we end up talking and doing maybe whatever it is besides doing the work that's in front of them?
I can see that, but I think one of the things with Renegades, with this album, is when I was doing my vocal tracks, the guys were in the studio with me. And even though we had something written, say I would sing something and Steve or Kelly or, any of the three guys, Scotty, would be like, oh, why don't you try singing it like this? And I go, okay. And then I do it like that. And we'd all be like, oh, there it is. And you can't get that at that moment. When you're at home and you're emailing off files to other guys, your finished track is your finished track. And obviously guys can go, hey, at bar 54, can you change your this chord to that chord or whatever? But having all the guys collectively creating it together as a unit just made it give it so much more dimension, I think.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Nice.
I stole your last question.
No, that's okay. So you joined LA Guns back in around 2019? How did that situation come about?
Well, it was just to do M3 that year.
Yeah.
That was all we were doing. It was just going to be that one gig. And Steve called me up. He got my name through, I lived in Vegas for like 17, 18 years. And so I played with Brent Muscat and Todd Kearns plays with Slash now. We did Faster Pussycat for a while when Tammy wasn't back with Brent. Brent was putting Faster Pussycat back together, and I wanted to do a kind of a reunion thing with everybody. And Tammy had his thing going. So long story short, through all those people doing that and playing with other bands, I played with Marky Ramone for a little bit on guitar, and my name got thrown in the hat to Steve to come do this M3 gig with him.
Nice.
And so I kind of hummed and hawed about it a bit, and then Steve called me personally, and we talked about it for a while, and I shared my concerns and he shared his, and we just said, okay, let's do it. We didn't rehearse anything. We all just did our homework and showed up and did the gig.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
It was nerve-wracking, man, like especially because I knew I was going to be under the microscope being the singer. So, but I was just like, I love the songs. I love the band. So I wasn't going to say no. I didn't want to say no.
Yeah.
Not only is Steve a band member, but he's also the producer.
Yes.
How convenient is it to have a band member to be the primary producer? And I guess also, is there any pluses or minuses of not bringing an independent producer for hire in, or is having Steve do the producing just way too convenient? And I guess, is there any pluses and minuses to not bringing some outside source in?
I think the pluses with Steve, since I've worked with LA Guns, whether it's shows or the album or anything, Steve has been so straightforward and no bullshit, and everything's organized, and that's how he treated doing this record. He had to organize flights, he had to organize the studios, hotel rooms. Like it's a lot. Dealing with management, you got to deal with the record company, and everything just went so smoothly. And from an artistic point of view, Steve has been in the studio with some greats, whether it's producers or whether it's guys, engineers or other band members. So he brings all that knowledge. So I learned a lot. I haven't done near as much as somebody like Steve Riley. So I learned a lot on how to approach an album and how to record and how to get that vibe. Those guys, Steve and Kelly, really zoned in on capturing that LA Guns vibe. And so that's, from that producer standpoint, I think it was great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So you said you played with the M3 Rock Festival, and then how many shows did you get to play before the pandemic hit? And what were some of the your favorite songs from the past catalog of LA Guns?
I think we did a show with Dee Snider and Dawkins in Vegas. That was the only other show we got in. And then we had about 10 to 15 shows that just got either, I think 90% of them got rebooked. Yeah. So hopefully those dates will, start to come out once everything settles down. And as far as the stuff I love to play, I love those first 3 records, man. Like Cocked and Loaded, I had on cassette.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I like when I was playing the bar circuits up in Canada, man. I had the Cocked and Loaded in my car driving everywhere. So that was my favorite record from LA Guns back, when they came out. So, Never Enough, and I love all that stuff that has really. I love hard rock with hooks. That's what I love.
Okay, well, this brings an interesting question. So, like you said, you've only M3 Festival and you with Dee Snider. So, when you are approaching, performing some of these classic LA Gun songs live for how challenging was it? I know it's only been a few shows, but how challenging was it for you to belt some of those classic songs out? Did you have any apprehension, or were you full of confidence at that time?
Well, no, that's that's something I approached Steve about before I even committed to doing that first gig, is because Phil's a great singer, and Phil sings like Phil, man. He's he's got a great rock voice, and like I don't sing like that. And I think Steve knew that. He did a lot of research on me online and talked to people, and I go, I can just sing like me. And I think, I'm not going to try and imitate anybody's voice. I have to be myself. And I think that's what Steve wanted. So that's what the guys in the band wanted. So, if it means that I don't sing an exact melody, I'm going to do it my way, but keeping true to the song, because I'm first and foremost, I'm a fan. So I want to hear the songs a certain way too. You can't go too far from what the song is. I'm not trying to change anything my way. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So my favorite LA Guns song is Over the Edge. Will you guys be performing that song when you do finally go out and play live shows in a touring way of things, or is that song maybe not in the catalog?
I think I would bet that song's going to be in the set list. The shows that we did, that was our opening song. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic! Nice. Oh, how convenient! Good to know. So we're talking a little bit about touring, and this is another question that we ask every artist, or at least I do. There's all these different methods of touring now. Do it the old-fashioned way, get in a bus and play. And go to the next location on a bus with your crew and everything else. So, I know somebody like Jack Russell's Great White. They do a lot of those weekend warrior fly-in date type thing. Or some artists, they go out for 2 and 3 weeks at a time, then stop and take a break, then go back out for 2 weeks, and then come back and take a break. Where is the thought process with you and with the rest of the band as far as when things get back to normal? How are you going to approach playing live in a touring aspect of it all?
I think from the get-go of this, we aren't getting in a van and going to do a month run of shows. That's not what we're going to do. I told the guys too, I go, I don't want to get in a van and do it, man. We've all done that. We've all played, sports bars, and, we just want to do the festival shows and the big shows and the quality shows, which, most of them will probably fall on, Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, but there'll be some Sunday shows. But if there's a run, say that there's a run in England or something, or, they're talking about some of these other places to go do flying shows, like, yeah, but we're not going to duke it out like doing 2-3 weeks straight of shows. That's not what we're looking at.
I know that we've had many artists that have come on that have attempted to do those fly-in dates for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or however it works. Yeah. I know they said when they fly back home on that Monday or whatever else, it takes them 2 or 3 days just to recover. And then when they finally have recovered, now they're back out doing it again. So they have like 2 days or 1 day to be normal, and then they're back out killing it again. I guess, from an economic standpoint of it all, is that kind of like the way of the future for bands that maybe are a veteran band that have some years behind them, just to go out there and knock them out in 3 days, come home and try to recoup for that short a time and then do it again? Or is that even economical these days, with, I guess, maybe with flights being as cheap as they are?
Yeah, I think that does help, but it's not cheap. That's why we look to do the M3 type shows and the festival shows, and as far as, like, I'm a full-time musician. I work. I have a British rock band here that I play with called the Hooligans. We just did one of those remote albums, and we work. We do corporate shows. We do so. When before all this went down and everything shut down, I was doing 6 shows a week. So, and then if an LA Guns show or a weekend shows come up, I sub my gig out and go to LA Guns. So this is all I do, man. I don't know how to do anything else. So
nice. Yeah, that was my next question. I was going to ask you about the Hooligans. That's your other band. Who are some of the members in that band?
A couple guys. Matt from the Blue Man Group, Dave Traver, he's the music director for Blue Man Group, which since has been the show here in Orlando has been laid off, so we don't know if that's coming back. Hopefully it will. And Paul, our guitar player, he played with Seven Mary 3. So
Nice.
we're just a great group of guys, man. They're top-notch, world-class musicians, and we just love playing the British rock stuff, from Zeppelin to The Sweet to T-Rex, Bowie, all that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just stuff that we love, and it's kind of taken off here in Central Florida because there isn't really bands that were doing stuff like that. You know, obviously there's bands that do all the typical stuff, but I'm like, let's just do stuff that we want to do. And then, you know, it just kind of, people started to take on to it. And next thing you know, we're getting all this work offered to us. And we're like, yeah,
Excellent.
beats working a day job.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of switch gears on you a little bit. So, you know, we got news yesterday of the loss of Eddie Van Halen. We've kind of known through the podcast for a while that he wasn't well. We didn't know to what degree. And I guess, you know, I kind of felt like the loss of Eddie Van Halen was right up there, like the loss of John Lennon, how it impacted my father. Can you kind of shed a little light, you know, since you're in the industry, the genre of music that you play is very similar. You know, the loss of Eddie Van Halen, what has it felt like for you? Then, but also, what will it do to the industry with the loss of somebody like that?
It really hit me when I heard the news, and then I sat down and I do the only gigs that are running right now are like solo shows and stuff. So I like to keep my chops up. So I sat and I started learning here about it later. I'll dive it down, and I'm like, I got to do some Van Halen stuff. And as soon as I started, because I'm a huge Eddie Van Halen fan. Back in the day, I have all the tablature books. I learned all the catalog, you know, when I was a kid and like in my teens. And as soon as I started learning that song from Diver Down, I got like teared up, and I was like, I didn't realize how much a part of my life that Eddie Van Halen was. Like it really hit me. Like from the hearing his vocals back up to his guitar, you know, it spoke so much. Like Jimi Hendrix could speak to his guitar, you know. Eddie Van Halen is, you know, the same. And it really hit me and realized how much of a part of my life it was. Never like Van Halen, and Eddie Van Halen even more so.
And that being said, is that, you know, everybody has that moment when they discovered Eddie Van Halen. I know that when I was a young kid, maybe 4th or 5th grade, and MTV was fresh, and the first time I recognized Eddie Van Halen was that crazy video for "Oh Pretty Woman" with the midgets and everything else on there.
Yeah. That
I discovered, like, whoa, this is some serious guitar playing. And I was just, you know, 11-year-old kid. That guy was making sounds that I had never heard before. Can you kind of reminisce with us the first time that you can remember that you discovered Eddie Van Halen, or Van Halen the band?
I thought about that today, actually. I think I was about 10 years old, and I was over at a friend's house playing. I was maybe in like the 4th grade or something. And he pulled out Van Halen 1 on vinyl, and he goes, "Have you heard this?" And I was like, "I have no idea what that is. I don't know what that is." I was into Kiss at the time. Yeah. I got my first Kiss album at the age when I was 6 years old.
Nice.
And he put it on, and I just was like, I just remember holding that album cover and staring at it going, holy crap, what the hell is this? And then, you know, fast forward to when I picked up guitar when I was 15 years old. I saw Van Halen, and obviously Eddie's playing, and I just tried to imitate it, tried to learn it all. And what was so cool about Van Halen is they were a band. They were 4 different guys, and that's what I wanted to be. I looked up to that so much, whether it was Kiss or Van Halen or a band like LA Guns, and you know what? They're a band. They're like a gang. Yeah. And that's what's missing today. And that's something I think that we try and recapture too with this lineup of LA Guns. It's like, that's what I really looked at Van Halen too. I was like, I want to be in Van Halen. I want to be in a band like that. So that's something I took from Eddie and from Van Halen.
Absolutely. I know that, you know, we've talked about, you know, famous or guitar virtuosos, excuse me. But nobody, like, we talk about Steve Vai and John Sykes and, you know, Jimi Hendrix. We could talk about, I mean, we could just keep going down the list. But it seems like nobody had that, what Eddie Van Halen had. I don't know what it is or what he had. I mean, because we all know there's great guitar players. I mean, virtuosos all over the place, but something captured us with Eddie. Yeah. And I can't ever put my finger on it because, like I said, we see great guitar players all the time. Will we ever see, would you feel we'll ever see a guitar player that captivated people the way that Eddie Van Halen captivated people?
I think so. You know, I don't want to say no because, you know, who'd have thought Eddie Van Halen would have come on after Jimi Hendrix? And I think one thing that how Eddie Van Halen did it is that was him creating. Like he pioneered and engineered that stuff. All the stuff he did, down to his sound, down to the way he dialed in his tone, down to the way he built his own guitars. Like that, his sound and his playing was so personal and so engineered by him that he created that. And I think that's why so many people tried to copy it. And I remember reading endless interviews with him, and his advice was always to somebody was, come be yourself, come up with your own sound and be yourself. And that's kind of, you know, that's what I took away from him.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. So, speaking of being a big Kiss fan, you were also in a Kiss tribute band, Black Diamond. Is that how you got
Vancouver?
Is that how you got your start in the music industry?
Yeah, I got asked to be. It was originally going to be an original band. This was like 92, maybe, and our singer was the singer that asked me to be in the band was being managed by Paul Stanley at the time. And so we were sending Paul demos. This was right when they were doing the Carnival of Souls album.
Okay.
So it was like, you know, guitar solos and like melodic rock weren't cool at the time. You know, it was like right when Nirvana hit. And so we kept sending him demos, and he was like, this, you know, it's cool stuff, but can you send me anything that's more like Soundgarden-y kind of Alice in Chains vibe? And we're like, that's not really our vibe. And ironically enough, it was very kind of like that Van Halen kind of party rock, melodic rock, heavy guitar vibe. And so we said, what about doing a Kiss tribute? And he said, you have our blessing. And so we went out and did it big. We hired like a 3-4 man crew and did the pyro, and we did it up big. Yeah, we toured around the world. We did a bunch of different countries, and that was kind of I was in my early 20s, so that was my rock university, going on the road and learning how to play live. And so, yeah, it was my education.
Okay, so it's October, it's spooky time. I know you kind of wanted to talk.
My favorite time of year.
Mine too, man. So I guess, you know, we wanted to do a little discussion about horror flicks, spooky movies.
I'm a horror movie fanatic, man.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little horror movie.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite horror movie? I mean, you know, we talk about horror movies now. There's so many different genres. There's the slashers. You know, the Blumhouse make all kinds of crazy stuff. What do you like? I
like it all. Like, I love 70s. Just today while my daughter was online doing school, you know what movie I put on? The House of Frankenstein.
Nice.
The old black and white. That's what I watched today. Had a coffee, and like that's me, man. Like, and so I like everything from B movies to, like, I love Stanley Kubrick movies, The Shining. I love The Exorcist. I love all the Romero movies. I love the Carpenter movies. Like Shudder. The Shudder app, which is the horror movie app for all you non-horror people out there, is you can watch anything from suspenseful to campy to, you know, to gore porn to whatever they call it, you know. So I watch it all. If it's good, I'll watch it.
Have you gotten into any of the Japanese horror where it's in subtitles, like Audition, or some of those things that are, some of their horror movies are really hard to watch because it's so realistic. Have you got into any of that stuff?
Oh yeah, I remember watching Old Boy years ago. Mm-hmm. And I've watched Audition years ago. I think I watched that with Todd. Todd Kearns lived with my roommate, and so we watched that, all the Amityvilles, but yeah, I watched all those foreign films. If they're good, I'll watch them. I don't mind subtitles. You start to not realize you're reading subtitles. It's good.
Yeah.
So, as the evolution of Netflix has come around, I've found myself to be more geared to watching the series where it's it's an hour a time, so I can watch 1 hour a night for 10 evenings or whatever.
Yeah.
I know what I've kind of gotten into now is I really got into The Haunting of Hill's House. I watched that. I didn't know if you ever got into that or not.
I watched it all. I watched that.
Yeah, and, Stranger Things, and now I guess that we're waiting upon The Haunting of Bly House. So how do you like maybe the way that Netflix is doing it now, where it's a series and you don't have to sit down for 2.5 hours or 2 hours, whatever else, you can break it up into an hour episode. Are you a big fan of how Netflix is kind of putting that out there?
Yeah, I'm a fan of some of the HBO stuff is amazing. Like Chernobyl, I know it wasn't horror, but I thought that was amazing. And I like something that has a start and an end. Mm-hmm. That's one thing when people say, even I watch Dexter, but I'm 10 seasons or whatever it was, that's a commitment. So I'm does it have it has a start and an end? It's 10 shows and it's done. Okay, yeah, I'm all the way in. I'm all in.
Oh, cool. All right, I have one question left for you, and this, I know we've taken enough of your time here.
Sure.
So I know you're Canadian, so I went to I did my undergrad, and I had some Canadians. We're down here in Illinois, but we had some Canadians that went to the same university that I attended, and we got into always some big discussion about the CFL. The guys that I went to school with, they were not fans of the CFL, and they would always say that the ones that could not have made it in the NFL, so they go to the CFL. So what is your thought on the CFL? Then I've also met people that absolutely just think it's the greatest thing. So as far as you being a Canadian that's been now displaced in the United States, how do you portray the CFL?
Well, I'm from Edmonton, so they had the Edmonton Eskimos. And I think I went to one CFL game in my whole life, but my family was my dad worked for the Edmonton Oilers, so I'm a hockey guy through and through, man. So and my wife went to UCF, so it's football and hockey in this household. So, but yeah, the CFL, I didn't really get into it.
Yeah. I know that the couple guys that I went to school with, they were very anti-CFL, and there was a couple of football players that attended Western Illinois University that went up and ended up playing in the CFL, so it's kind of like a mixed bag. So either you have the Canadians that
get into the rules either. It's there's another down, and there's it's different rules. They're kind of weird.
Well, it's kind of funny that it's a real division of Canadians that I meet. It's either they absolutely love the CFL or they absolutely despise the CFL, and so it's just a mixed bag. So anyway, that was my curveball question for you.
I think the field's too big in the CFL. Even the field's bigger.
Yeah, it is.
It's way wider. It's really weird.
And it's weird that it's bigger, but yet they put the goalpost, they push them up. Instead of being in the back of the end zone, they're in the front of the end zone, so that's weird. But anyway, Kurt, we want to thank you so much for your participation, and it usually works out that we have an episode that's going to be coming out before yours, so we're about a week and a half or so, and then we'll have your episode available, and I will send you the link immediately, and then you can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn and Apple Podcasts, and then all the podcasting applications that are out there.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
And if you need any artwork or anything, go to laguns.net. They should have everything there that you need.
Oh, fantastic. We'll do that. All right. Well,
and if you need anything, just shoot me an email or whatever, and I'll send you some art.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, thank you so much. You've been a great guest. We appreciate it.
Yeah, the 3 tracks.
Thanks, Jeff and Eric.
Yeah, the 3 tracks sound great. Can't wait to hear more.
Excellent.
Yeah, it keeps rocking, man. I love the album. So.
Yep. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Bye-bye. Bye.
breaks. Everybody grinds the stone and makes their own mistakes. Hide in the headlights, fight the grip of fear. You can make your dreams come true, but you just can't